I'm David Reimer, the director of the Dorothy Gerber Strings Program, here today with Bob Pattengale, one of the original influencers of what would become the Gerber Strings Program. So back in 1999, Bob and a number of other people kind of converged to bring about an orchestra that we look back as part of our origins. So, Bob, it's great to talk with you today. Could you just tell us that story again of how all of this came together?
Oh, thank you, David. We started primarily because Steve Overton, who was the director of Concord, had two daughters that wanted to play in an orchestra, and there were none available. So Steve asked me if I had any history with orchestras, and I said I had been on the board of the Fargo-Moorhead Youth Symphony, but I really didn't know much about it. So we called teachers and got a group together, and we put on our first concert in February of 2000. We had a dozen students and about a half a dozen teachers and coaches that worked. Bing Farrar had been the orchestra director in a Columbus school program, Columbus, Ohio. And he had access to a bunch of music that would work for a beginning orchestra. So he brought that along, and we started in the basement of Crooked Tree Arts Center before it was remodeled. So I mean, it was rough going just down in that basement, and we had a lot of fun. And John Van Patten was on the staff at the time at Crooked Tree, so he sort of opened the doors for us and got things started, and did some conducting, and served as one of the coaches and teachers. So between Bing and John, and then a number of others that were coaching and teaching. Mary Beth Kerr was a cellist, a little known today around because she's a lawyer, but she was one of our first low string persons, other than, of course, Bing. Then from that point, we put on a concert again in April of that same year, in 2000. And that went well. We had a good number of string players from the community that joined us. Peggy Beck had a long-standing trio with Prudy Kurtz and Marlis Montai. And they joined us, and that provided some solid foundation for the teachers and the students. And that worked out very nicely. Our first concerts, I invited one of my former colleagues from Minnesota State University, and Alan Rawson and his wife form a duo. They're still performing. They live out near Seattle now, but they have added a lot to the community's involvement, I think, initially. I think I like to mention Alan and Sandy. We then got involved with Dale Hull and Crooked Tree, and Dale's a real visionary. He could see the opportunity for a youth orchestra program, so he agreed to hire a string teacher later that year to take the program if we would bring the youth orchestra under the Crooked Tree's umbrella. So we couldn't pass up the chance to have a really fine teacher, and Carrie Johnson was hired. She was literally a Pied Piper with kids. Had a terrific program going. She was in about, I don't know, a dozen or more schools, spending all of the time on the road with the kids. I think by the end of that, she had somewhere in the neighborhood of 150 or maybe even 200 kids starting on strings. So I mean, that really propelled the program ahead. She then participated in another benefit concert And altogether, we had 4 programs that we labeled ourselves the Northern Michigan Youth Orchestra. Found out that that name had already been taken.
Oh.
So we were searching for something else. At that last program in the summer of 2001, Peggy Beck said to me, we need to do this regularly.
Mhm.
And so I set about to do the 501c3 and get the Great Lakes Chamber Orchestra named and underway. So the youth orchestra really served as the foundation for the Great Lakes Chamber Orchestra. And
Right.
we continued to have students play in the orchestra for a number of years. And then eventually the Kerry Johnson left, Robert Dudd was hired, and we sort of separated youth orchestra from the Great Lakes Chamber Orchestra. And we've both gone on our own ways since then, pretty much.
Right. So yeah, I've talked to a number of people, and one of the major events early in that time period was that first concert at Bayview that Carrie directed. Were you at that concert? Do you have memories of that concert?
Oh yes, that was a real wingding actually. We got food to for that Saturday morning rehearsal, and then had a dinner at one of the Bayview facilities for all of the kids, and it was a real eye opener, I think, for the community.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful opportunity for the kids. Carrie did a terrific job in choosing the appropriate music, and the kids loved her.
Right. Yeah, it's been fun catching up with her, and we're looking forward to having her back in May, and you as well for our 20th anniversary celebration. So we'd like to get the band back together, as it were, for that event.
Oh, that'll be exciting. I know. Some of the players still are playing today. A
Mm-hmm.
number have gone on to become teachers, and Beth Barnaden, whose married name I can't remember, is in the area in Boyne City. Stephanie Cope, which was her maiden name was Overton. She was one of the girls who got this thing started. So
Right.
there are still people in the community that are playing. Maggie
Mm-hmm.
Potson was one of the early coaches, and she's
Mm-hmm.
playing. So it's been an interesting and exciting development and trip all the way.
Right. Well, yeah. So you're describing some of the impact of, what started back then, and, that it's gone on 20 years, and both the chamber orchestra and the youth orchestra, which became the Gerber program after the Cummings family got involved. How does it feel to look back on that and see how many people that has impacted over the years?
Well, it's really hard to estimate, because there
Mhm.
were a lot of students who participated at one level, and
Mhm.
that has to have a lasting impact on their lives and their support of music in general. Um,
Mhm.
our first conductor of the Great Lakes Chamber Orchestra, Matt Hazelwood, believes that music was really a primary way to connect students and community. He saw it as important a social program as it was a musical program.
Right.
I think that is what the youth orchestra and Great Lakes Chamber Orchestra has provided to the community.
Right. Yeah, and if it wasn't for the efforts of you and that group of people, and some financial funding, to imagine what this area would be like without those opportunities is not great things. So it's amazing to me, the impact over the years. Any other memories you have of the youth orchestra portion and what you've seen over the years from your vantage point as the program has grown?
Well, I started because I wanted to have some players to play harpsichord with. and, and that was sort of my initial involvement. Then I became an administrator, and I think that the impact on the community has been profound in many respects. The orchestra has a solid base in the community. The youth orchestra is doing wonderfully, and I think that you and the Gerber Strings support has been remarkable.
Thank you. Yeah, well, it's been fun. Many challenges, but what has happened, what is behind us is great, but there's so much more that's possible ahead. I'm really looking forward to what happens there, including the weekend we're talking about with the 20th anniversary celebration. The day before that is our spring collage concert, which will be our next chance to demonstrate the growth of the program, all of those at the Great Lakes Center for the Arts. So that's going to be an exciting weekend for us. So we look forward to seeing you there, and we hope to have a full house and really celebrate in style the history of the program and all the people who have contributed so much to it.
Well, thank you. I'm looking forward to it.